Welcome to Capitol Preview, a weekly bipartisan discussion with Iowa legislators about the key issues facing our state. Brought to you by MediaCom.
Hi, this is Bill Peard, and welcome to another edition of Capitol Preview, a show where we profile the opinions of our lawmakers at the Iowa General Assembly. Our guest today is Representative Scott Ourth, Democrat, District 26 of Warren County. Scott, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, welcome to Capitol Preview.
Thank you.
So I know everybody has these hot button issues, and every representative or senator has their own personal slant on some of the issues that we're facing up there at the Iowa General Assembly. So I think public education is an important one to you. So why don't you give us a little bit about your views on public education and what you're doing up there at the State House?
Okay, well, thanks, Bill, for the opportunity to talk about that. For me, public education is the most important thing going. I mean, if we fail to give our children, a quality education, the future just falls off completely. So it's incumbent upon us. And in Iowa, we've had that great tradition of making sure our children have been given the best education we can possibly offer them. And as of late, it seems as though we've been dropping in terms of percentage across the United States in terms of educational excellence, and that alarms me. And I am, now I'm up close and personal to the whole thing here in the legislature, and last year was just a fiasco in my estimation. Under the rules, under the code, the legislature is supposed to establish state supplemental aid, formerly known as allowable growth, within 30 days of the governor submitting his budget proposal. And he typically does that like the second day of the legislature, and he did it again this year. Last year, we just failed miserably to set state supplemental aid in a timely fashion, and it dragged out all the way to the end of the General Assembly. Well, so here we are playing these political games trying to show who's the most frugal and who's the most, budget conscious. Meanwhile, superintendents and school boards have no earthly idea what to expect. Some of the smaller districts go on a thing called budget guarantee, which forces them to raise property taxes to guarantee enough money to run their schools. So basically, all these people in the legislature that talk about how they're never going to raise taxes and by George we're not going to raise taxes, well, they just force somebody else to do it for them. And I find that to be duplicitous. So I think this year we're off to a better start. The Democrats are proposing a 4% allowable growth. Republicans have come in at 2%, and so we'll be working from a much better point, I think, this time. And I have high hopes that we'll just get this done and move on and do the other things. That's my hope.
Now, I've heard from being up there that they're wanting to tackle this and get this done within, like, the first month of the legislative session, so they can get this big elephant in the room done and approved.
Well, I would hope that's the case, because last year, as I say, we didn't get it done until almost June. It was awful. Getting it done within the legally allotted time would certainly be nice if we were in compliance with the code. That'd be a good thing. And I think it would, the school districts across the state of Iowa, leadership, would be able to breathe a sigh of relief. Bill, if we have to come in with a low number, because revenues are down, commodity prices are low, and so it'll be a tight year in terms of tax receipts. If we have to do a low number, well then, so be it, but let the school districts know what they have to work with early on so they can get about the business of doing their jobs.
What about I kind of think that's an interesting slant on this thing too, is that, our budget is not what we thought it was going to be, budget projections, because of land prices and corn prices tanking. Right. So what's your opinion on that? I mean, the fact that how we're going to make up that shortfall from budget projections tied to ag dropping like it is? Well,
a lot of my friends in the legislature like to hammer on this. They've got this little rhetorical hook, and they always say, well, we can't spend more than we take in. We shouldn't spend more than we take in. We can't spend more than we... Well, everybody knows that. I mean, the Iowa Constitution allows for the General Assembly to establish a budget that only spends 99% of revenues, and this year The governor, I think, is coming in somewhere like 96%, and I think the legislature is probably going to be somewhere in that neck of the woods. So we don't spend more than we take in. I mean, we never have. That's not true. The issue is, how big is the pie?
Right.
And so the question becomes a matter of priorities. And so it's how you slice the pie with how much you have.
Right.
And if it's less than it was last year, you have less to work with. So I take a big picture approach. I'm just not dialed in on the education budget alone, because that relates to everything else in the budget too.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of setting priorities, making sure we're reasonable, responsible, and equitable with how we slice the pie. And I just think that in terms of the future of our state, nothing is more important than educating our children from preschool all the way up through their college education.
Oh, very good. Thank you. I know water quality nutrient reduction strategies has been another one of your things that you're very interested in, and it's a hot topic up there right now. So
it is a hot topic. Well, you know, we talk about the farmers across the state, the Farm Bureau, the governor, Secretary Northey, the Ag Secretary, folks in the legislature. I mean, it is a universally understood problem that our water is of very poor quality. We have phosphates and nitrates running off into our streams and rivers. I'm particularly interested in it because I have more running water in my house district than anybody else. I've got the Des Moines River, the Middle River, the North and South rivers, both, and they're all flowing right through my county, and they all flow into the Des Moines River. So I'm particularly interested in all that stuff. I'm not a big fan of having the heavy-handed EPA in here, the federal government in here, because when that happens, then we're going to get body slammed on the deal, and we're going to have a lot of unfunded mandates. We're going to be forced to do stuff that they're not going to help us pay for, and we're going to have to figure it out, and it's going to have a crippling effect on our agricultural economy. And so I think the nutrient reduction strategy, which is touted as more of a voluntary type of thing, is a really great place to start. And that involves farmers and soil and water conservation districts in every county practicing ag techniques such as grass waterways, buffer strips, timber lines, terracing, cover crops, and etc., which do help reduce nutrient runoff into our water supply. And then, you know, it will help us in Iowa do our part to shrink the hypoxia zone in the Gulf of Mexico and so on and so forth. Here's the issue, though. It's a bottom line deal. Every farmer is a business person, and they have pricing points, and they can only afford to invest so much in these processes that we just mentioned, and when it becomes too expensive, their bottom lines won't sustain it, and as a business, they have to make rational business judgments.
Sure.
That's where we come in as the legislature and the executive branch. We talk about nutrient reduction strategy all the time. And we talk about incentivizing farmers to do these voluntary practices. And we talk about cost share on cover crops and all these other things. If the farmers, if we put more money into our soil and water conservation boards, enabling counties to hire more technicians who are the people that know how to they know how to survey the ground and lay out these grass waterways and buffer strips and terraces. If we invest more in that, and we invest more in cost share programs for doing those kinds of things, plus things like cover crop, then we're going to be putting our money where our mouth is. And the legislature has a real difficult time. We come up with all kinds of grand ideas and talk in these giant platitudes about doing things. And then when it comes to offering the grants or the appropriations that would enable these programs to become real, we don't do it. So there's going to come a time, and I don't think it's going to be very far from now, where if we keep talking about the nutrient reduction strategy and we fail to fund it and we fail to put in place empirical measures showing that it's actually working, then it's going to begin very quickly to ring hollow, and it's going to cause some serious problems. So we need to get on it.
Well, I appreciate your time. Unfortunately, we are out of time this morning. I did want to just mention one thing. Representative Ourth, that I do understand that you have been named a Friend of Conservation by the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District, and that's a huge honor, especially since that issue is so important to Iowans now and in the future. So I appreciate your time with us this morning, and you have just seen another episode of Capitol Preview. Please join us for our next one. Thank you.